had the chance this year to go back to Codemash. It's one of my favorite conferences because it's in a water park. The conference itself isn't in the water park, it's just at the water park, but you get a bracelet to the water park, so it's cool. So there were a bunch of tracks and a bunch of stuff going on, and even though the conference is primarily aimed at developers, there was a UX design-ish track. One of the talks on that track was by a developer who was talking about things that other developers should know when starting out in UX. But what am I going to learn? This is like an entry-level talk. I've been doing this for years. But I took something incredibly important away from this talk. Part of it I take for granted because there are core pieces of information that I've learned over time that I take for granted. I don't really think about when I'm going to teach something. Sometimes when you're teaching something, you're starting to advance. You're thinking too high. When I was submitting a talk, I was thinking, what cool thing have I learned in the last year or two that I can teach other people about? What I should have been thinking about is, who's my audience and what are they looking to learn? There might be a UX metaphor in here. We learn something at this base level and then we build on top of that and add pieces as we go. We add layer after layer until we have this huge tower of things learned. An easy way to remember it is the acronym HTOTL. What? That's not a real acronym? Because the longer you do something, the harder it is to remember what it's like to be that beginner. Oftentimes beginners have no idea where to start. When I went to this UX presentation, the speaker covered things like, hey, here are some wireframing tools, or this is a good way to present. This is stuff I totally would have glossed over. I think the reason this talk really resonated with me right now is because I feel like I'm a beginner. I'm starting a lot of new things. Maybe not in design, but video, I have no idea what I'm doing. I also started playing around a little bit with Ruby, things like Sass and Jekyll. Alright, confession time. So for Jekyll, there's tutorials all over the internet, you can check them out. But they looked like this. See that $sign at the front? You're not supposed to type that in, but it's on every tutorial. Nowhere in all my travels across the worldwide internet had I found that little piece of information. I had to ask a human. Where do you learn that? So that was hours of frustration, and a friend finally showed me how to kind of get it up and running, and he kind of laughed at me. It's like some secret note had been passed all around the internet, and it said, P.S. Don't tell Brad about this. Let's see if he figures it out on his own. I didn't figure it out on my own. It was only after hours of frustration that a friend showed me what was up. But I almost gave up. I had this screw Ruby moment. I may have even tweeted that. But once that little puzzle piece fell into place, I was off to the races. I'm glad I went to that UX talk. It was one of the most valuable lessons of the day. Sometimes the stuff you don't set out to learn is the stuff that ends up teaching you the most. So there we are, made it to the end of another one. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to subscribe or follow along on Twitter, and I'll see you in a week or two.